Welcome to the Lose Your Big Ass Stomach podcast. I'm your host, Jay Jackson, and my mission here is to help you get rid of that big ass stomach and take back control of your health so that you can look and feel your best by being the best version of yourself, mentally and physically, while destroying the mediocre agenda society is trying to brainwash you into, and breaking our families' generational curses of being unhealthy by being a healthy and fit role model. It's time to set a new standard. It's time to set a new standard of living. If you find the podcast helpful, be sure to hit that follow button because that helps us build a movement. Let's go. Welcome to the Lose the Big Ass Stomach podcast. I'm your host, Jay Jackson, and this is a very special episode because this is the first podcast of many, baby. Yeah, of many. And so in this episode, I want to talk about who this podcast is for, who is not for, and what my vision is for this podcast. All right. Now, obviously, it's about losing belly fat. It's about losing the fupa, the muffin top, the big ass belly, right? But at the same time, it's not all about just vanity and looking good. I want you guys to feel proud about how you look, but that's not all of it though. And I want to demonstrate why it's so important to get rid of that stomach by telling y'all a personal story. Because the way I grew up in a family, a household where we had a ton of generational traumas from health-related issues. You know, my grandfather, he passed away at 46 years old. We looked at him like he was that guy in the household, taking care of the family. I grew up with him and my two great aunties, and all three of them were obese. But back then, you know, we used to think that they were big bone. That was the big thing back then. We used to think that being big bone was a thing. And when my granddad passed away, he passed away from a heart attack. He was a truck driver, and you know, he had, you know, mild strokes here and there. He developed sleep apnea, but we didn't understand the importance of nutrition. We didn't understand the importance of physical activity. And so we would just, you know, eat soul food pretty much every day. I remember eating pork chops, smothered pork chops, green beans, macaroni and cheese, pound cake. I used to lick the bowl when my great auntie would fix the pound cake. And, you know, it was just like, that was a norm for us. But over time, I seen a lot of people that I really loved and cared about struggle in silence with health-related issues because of their weight, because they didn't understand things like this. And as I got older, this is the reason that I went to Georgia State University to study exercise science and nutrition, because this is where I start to really understand what was really happening to my family back then. You know, I was like, man, I didn't know that type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure and sleep apnea and having heart attacks and things like that could come from the way we eat. It could come from the way that our lack of physical activity. And it just hit me. I just remember when one of my professors, when she was talking about this stuff, I'll never forget her name, Miss Abbott, she was talking about these things and I was just blown away. I literally had to put my head down on the desk in class because it just brought me to tears, because I started to realize how much pain my family was really going through. And it just made me feel way more purposeful for wanting to share this information with so many other people, because there's plenty of people out here who lose family members and loved ones because of their health. And these things are completely avoidable. And of course, we want to look good, but at the same time, we want to feel proud and we want to be that positive role model and example for the people that we love and care about, as well as our community. And so this is one of the biggest reasons I got into doing this. And, you know, for myself, I was never that overweight kid. I was never overweight, guys. Like, I was a kid that had the big head. I was slim. And I wanted to be able to be in shape, to be able to talk to the little girls in middle school. I wanted to talk to my childhood crush, but, you know, I didn't feel confident or proud about how I looked to feel like I could, you know, approach my childhood crush to talk to her. And so when I moved, my dad, when I was 13 years old, he thought I was working out for football, but no, your boy was working out because I wanted to put on some muscle so I could talk to my childhood crush. But as I started exercising, I started, filling out my shirts. I started wearing my V-necks and everything like that, my polos, looking good in school. And, started talking to the girls that I was really attracted to. But I noticed something. My dad, he had this little twinkle in his eyes. Yeah, he had a little twinkle in his eyes. He had this sense of, he was proud of me. And I started chasing that. I started chasing that validation of like, man, my dad is actually proud of me for doing this, proud of me for exercising. And so it became an obsession. I was chasing his validation, but at the same time, me getting fit and healthy and in shape, it impacted every other area of my life. My relationships, playing football, even just my status amongst my peers. People trust you, they respect you because they know it's not easy to take care of yourself and be healthy with everything, all the different responsibilities with business, our careers and family. People respect it, man. And so I understood this at a young age. And so as I got into my fitness career, I started noticing that losing belly fat was very important to a lot of people that I was helping when I got into doing in-person personal training. And it got to a point where I was helping people lose weight. I was helping people get in shape, but they still have like a last little 10, 15, 20 pounds to lose to get rid of that stomach. They come to me, hey coach, man, I done dropped some weight, but how we need to lose this little stomach right here? How we get rid of this stubborn belly fat? And I didn't know. I didn't know what to do. I felt like a fraud at that point. And so I thought to myself, well, who in the world knows how to get people absolutely shredded? Who knows how to get people super cut up? Because I had already been an athlete, but I still didn't know. And so I turned to bodybuilding. So I hired me a bodybuilding coach, and I stepped on stage as a men's physique bodybuilder, won a couple of trophies. And after my second show, I figured, bodybuilding just wasn't for me, because I noticed that there were so many people that were, they admired my success. They admired my physique, but it just wasn't, I knew in my head, it's not something that was sustainable for the average man, because most people can't spend 2-3 hours in the gym, 6-7 days a week. We have responsibilities and, family and business, careers, all that kind of stuff. And so I stepped away from doing bodybuilding, and I found myself thinking, man, how can I keep a very similar lean, cut, defined, built look without spending hours in the gym, without giving up my favorite foods, without, starving myself. And I started taking the practices that I learned from doing bodybuilding and the things that I learned from going to Georgia State University and getting my exercise science degree. And I said, wow, okay, well, let me, work out a little bit less, but let me do it in a way that's a little bit more effective. Let me pay attention to my nutrition a little bit more. And then I started to realize, man, my body looks just as good and I actually feel better. And I'm not living in a gym. I'm eating tacos, I'm eating burgers, I'm eating, pizza within reason. Of course, there's structure on how I'm doing this stuff. But I said, man, I'm living proof that you can do this. And so as I started to teach it to my online coaching members, I'm like, man, this is really transforming people, not just from a physical standpoint. People are dropping 25, 30, 35 pounds in just 12 weeks, but it also impacted them from a personal standpoint. I'm talking about women and guys are like, man, my kids, they're jumping down on the ground doing push-ups with me. My wife, she can't keep her hands off me. Hey, Jay, man, my husband, he has that twinkle in his eyes again. He's all over me now, Jay. People start to up level in their careers because they lose that big ass stomach. Because guys, the world that we live in, the way we look, our body, that's a representation of how we take care of ourselves, and it's a representation of how responsible we are, how disciplined we are. And so it's important. That's just the world we live in. I'm always keep it raw and 100 with y'all in this podcast. And so I just wanted to let y'all understand, this is not just about the vanity side of it. I'll be sharing things, from mindset to tactics that you can use with your nutrition, with your training to be able to get better results to build the muscle, to burn the body fat, and get rid of that big ass stomach. But at the same time, I'm helping you become the best version of yourself. I'm helping you raise your standards, because in society nowadays, there's so many people that think that it's supposed to be easy. They think it's supposed to always be convenient. And that's just not the case. You're gonna have the days, and I have the days where I don't feel like going to the gym, but I still go to the gym. I don't feel like eating my salmon and basmati rice and asparagus, but I still do it. You see what I'm saying? And so it requires that sexy D word, discipline. Absolutely, it requires discipline. And so this is the No Bullshit podcast. This is the I'ma keep it straight, no chaser podcast. All right. And so when you come here, you can always expect to hear something about whether it be mindset, actionable steps that you could take from that day of listening to the podcast, start to implement into your life and start to see results from it. All right. And so I don't want this podcast to be super long. My expectation is to have the podcast anywhere between like 10 to 15 minutes. Every now and then I might go a little bit longer, but I want it to be like a quick dose of motivation, education, a little bit of entertainment, and let you go out and go take action on the information that I've given you. All right. And my goal is to also have you come here and have you leaving that episode being a smarter, more educated version of yourself to go out and just transform your life, and also transform your life for the people that you love and care about, the people who are dependent on you. All right. And so with that said, Jay Jackson here. We out, man. They also call me Action Jackson because we about that action, baby. All right. And so with that said, I see y'all in the next episode. Let's go.